Good morning, Internet. Good afternoon, because it's already 1:20. I wanted to start this video sooner. Um, so I've received a couple more of the cassettes that I ordered, but I'm still waiting on most of them. I think they're all going to send out today. So I'm not updating just yet. However, I'm not enjoying any way that my hair is going. Um, I so I felt like making a quick video about sorry, I'm really particular about my hair. Damn it. I wanted to make a quick video about the term hypnagogia. Hypnagogia. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'm just gonna say hypnagogia because that feels right to me. So, um, I've heard like one Zola Jesus song. My fiance showed it to me, and it was not bad. I don't really remember it. I haven't heard any like Ariel Pink or any hypnagogic pop, let alone like okay. So I've heard, if we're talking about hypnagogic, I've heard a couple Stephen Clark albums and quite a bit of James Ferrero, as much as I could do in like a couple months' time, which isn't a lot. He's got a lot of albums. Um, that's the only time I've ever seen the word hypnagogic music like used. But it's pretty interesting because the word is a very specific medical term. So let me find the definition on Google just to be completely sure that I'm reading this right. It is a medical term. I have a feeling it's one of those terms that is very specific, or it was very specific at first, but has been appropriated for a different, kind of more abstract definition. Okay, so the term hypnagogia is the experience of the transitional state from wakefulness to sleep, the hypnagogic state of consciousness during the onset of sleep. Mental phenomena that occur during this threshold consciousness phase include lucid thought, lucid dreaming, hallucinations, and sleep paralysis. That's my favorite. And there's my tea. I'll be right back. Okay. So, if you don't know this, I love tea. So I just had like an Earl Grey thing, and this one now is Yemoncha. It's kind of like hojicha, but the green tea is also roasted along with the rice. It's delicious. I totally don't have trash just sitting around everywhere. Okay, so you've had a minute to think about that definition. I think that's super fascinating. My fiance actually is working on an album where he includes a song that is specifically exploring sleep paralysis as a urban legend, kind of like a traditional myth. So sometimes the word is used in a restricted sense to refer to the onset of sleep, contrasted with hypnopompia, Frederick Meyer's term for waking up. So I love just learning random shit, reading about random shit like this. Phantasmata is another term for hypnagogia, presomnal, anthipnic sensations, visions of half-sleep, onirogogic images. The borderland of sleep, predormitium, borderland state, half-dream state, pre-dream condition, sleep onset dreams, which I'm sure you've experienced if you're like starting to doze off and you kind of like wake up again from the dozing off, and like you remember certain images or sounds or whatever, or someone in this like dream that was starting to form, but you woke yourself up still, kind of. Like for me, I have, like, I start out with one train of thought while I'm beginning to fall asleep, and then like I doze off, and then I wake up again, and I realize that, like, where I woke up, what I realized I was like what I was dreaming about was very different from where my train of thought started, and it doesn't really follow any waking kind of logic. Wakefulness sleep transition. So it's a descriptor for a very specific medical occurrence, the word hypnagogia. So once I found that word as it was being described for music and sound, I started to so pretty much I only use the word when a piece of music is conceptually dealing with any one of those issues: wakefulness, sleep, the changing of consciousness, dreams. Or if the sound, if the song literally is, experimenting with inducing different states of consciousness in some kind of like physiological, concrete way. Should I put this? For example, so I mentioned my fiance is working on a song about sleep paralysis. He's also working on, not worked on, so he has an EP. We're on the final song. He was exploring through the use of like loops, Tibetan bowls, guitars, synths. He was exploring the auditory hallucinations that we have when we're sleep deprived and falling asleep, and how it sounds very different in our head as opposed to what's in front of us as we're falling asleep. So like, he used to put on a record to try to fall asleep. It starts off on side A, right? And he claims that as he fell asleep, or was falling asleep, dozing off, he would hear it slow down and get stretched out, and sometimes it started to go backwards. And when he woke up, again a few minutes later, it's what he heard out in real life was that the album was just starting again, or still, which is kind of creepy, but the best explanation would be that he was having an auditory hallucination of some kind about what his mind was hearing and how it was processing the sound while he was falling asleep. So there's the last like 14 minutes of his first EP from 2012 explores that. Like, he recorded himself saying something, and then he stretched out the volume. He stretched out the length of the track to span that like 12 or 14 minutes. So he was talking very slowly, and you couldn't really discern what he's saying, but his vision is like, what if you fell asleep to that track as you were listening to his song? Would your mind play it back properly? Like, would it reverse it, or would it slow it down even more? Would it speed up, like, the sound that you're hearing? So he was exploring that, and everyone's kind of got a different experience and opinion with that. But so something like that, I think, totally falls under the term hypnagogic music, because it's literally about the sleep state of consciousness, the dreaming state of consciousness, something related to that. So there's obviously also more room for interpretation about what could be considered hypnagogic, because like, in order to dream something, we need to remember stimuli and information that we see and hear and feel in the real world. So memory could be a part of it. even the future. So there's the past and then there's the future that can be combined into hypnagogic forms of expression, because there's people that, I mean, there's daydreaming, and then there's people that claim to have visions, or their dreams are omens for something that's going to happen, good or bad. And sometimes you dream something and it seems like just a dream, but then later on, what happened in the dream happens in real life, and then it becomes, in retrospect, has more meaning. So, and that's also kind of like parapsychological, paranormal. So that kind of enters this like spiritual territory, kind of. I think that could also be under the umbrella of hypnagogic music. So, like, to be perfectly honest, I don't see how that one Zola Jesus song, I don't even remember the name of it, but I don't see how it could be hypnagogic unless I listen to the lyrics. Again, maybe the lyrics had something to do with it, or... Because honestly, like, a 4-minute song wouldn't really do that for me, like, put me to sleep at all. And I kind of get the reason that this term gets thrown around with, like, vaporwave. Because of something like looping. Kind of... I can kind of see how that mimics, like, a falling asleep experience of falling asleep. But that's my opinion on the use of that word. Like, if a word has a very specific meaning, I try to use it with that very specific meaning. So there's not a lot of music that I would consider truly hypnagogic, and it could be of any genre, any style. I think hypnagogic is just, it should just be a descriptor, not like a genre. That makes sense. Like, definitely some of the skaters, Stephen Clark's own music, James Ferrero, any of that is most likely somewhat hypnagogic, and I'm sure there's a ton of other artists out there that do stuff like that. Probably some of the local artists whose cassettes I own could fall under that. So I just wanted to bring that up. I had a conversation with Raji on Tumblr, like, about that, and I was like, you know what, I feel like making a video about it. And I'm sorry it's kind of long. But yeah, it's food for thought. Maybe you guys can take that. Maybe it'll help you think differently about a term, or how we describe genres of music, or how we describe music, because not everything has to be a genre, not everything has to have a label on it, and vaporwave is not specifically hypnagogic at all. Some of it probably is, but most of it probably isn't. Like, just because it references, like, culture from 30 or 40 years ago doesn't mean it's hypnagogic. It just means you're interested in the cult of culture, the memory of culture, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with the physical act of sleeping, or like the physical, like, a literal dream state. Not always. So that kind of comes at your own discretion, I guess. And that's about it. I'm gonna drink my tea now. I hope you have a good day yourself. And thanks for watching again. Let's see if I can try to edit this thing and cut down on time.